So, Ferg, Lucas told me you're a James Wan fan.
Big time.
What's
time.
your favorite scene from Aquaman?
You got me there. Oh, that's a tough one. There's just so many.
Is it when the crab plays the drums?
The crab, yeah, that one, yeah, that was, and when he stands there with the pole.
The pole? You mean the trident?
The trident,
yes.
The trident, sorry.
Isn't it a pitchfork? It's just an undersea pitchfork, basically.
Well, hey, that's offensive. That's offensive. That's someone's culture you're talking about.
Shit, all right.
That did have some racial undertones.
It did. Anyway, welcome everyone to the podcast this week. Welcome to A Podcast Now, episode 11. I'm your host, Lachlan Rodwell. I've got my amazing co-host as usual, Lucas Boreham, but today it's a very special day because we have our very first guest, Fearghas Flahvin. How are you going, Fearghas?
Yeah, that was a bit offensive the way you pronounced my name, but thank you. I'm very good. Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm big fans. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Happy to be here.
Fearghas. That's how it's actually pronounced. Thanks,
Lachlan. Sorry. I'll try harder next time. And
just don't happen again.
And boys, what are we talking about this week?
James Wan.
Yes.
The man, the myth, the legend.
And a controversial movie.
Is it? I don't actually know. I haven't looked at any reviews or anything for this movie. But if you don't know, last week, a new James Wan horror movie came out called Malignant. And we're going to talk about it this week, in addition to his very first, well, the movie that put him on the map, which was Saw. So we'll discuss those two movies this week. But first, we have a news segment. We talk about movie news for a little bit. And big news this week. Big news. So a few weeks ago, Shang-Chi, another Marvel movie. Fearghas does not like superhero movies, but it doesn't matter. We're going to power through it.
Fuck him.
Shang-Chi released in theaters exclusively a few weeks ago. And everyone was a bit like, how's it going to perform? Turns out, very well. It pulled in $94 million in the US in its opening weekend, which was the largest weekend of that holiday, which I think was Labor Day or something like that. It's the biggest release ever for Labor Day. Not just COVID related, ever. It was the biggest release. So far, it has raked in a total of $175 million worldwide, which is one of the best grosses of COVID times.
Probably
and it was
only.
Yeah, well, it's Tenet. It's surprising because everyone was talking shit on Tenet, like, oh, it bombed. But now it's like that's the best performing movie of the box office during COVID. So, it didn't really bomb after all. But yes, its box office was so good. Shang-Chi's box office was so good that Venom 2, the movie we're all can't wait for, it actually had its release date pushed forward for once. I think this is the first movie whose release date was pushed forward during COVID. It was pushed forward 2 weeks to October 1st. So, my question is, are movies back? Is this it? Or is Shang-Chi just like a one-off success?
That's a big question. Well, we will see, I guess. Well, Spider-Man, A New Way Home, is coming out.
So close. No Way Home.
No Way Home. A Way Home. Does he even have a home? It's an apartment, for fuck's sake.
He's homeless.
Yeah, he's homeless.
Apartments aren't homes? All right, go on.
Well, I don't know.
That's offensive to people who live in apartments. You're not going great this podcast, Lucas.
Yeah,
very
no,
offensive.
if you're living above someone, like, come on, we're phasing out the hierarchy.
Finish your point.
Like if a No Way Home goes well, I reckon, then that'll be a true testament to movies are back. I reckon in my little mind.
Yes.
Are we talking about Australia or worldwide?
Worldwide. Right now, of course, Australia's in lockdown. Well, at least a large portion of the population is. So currently, theatrical releases are dead, but we may, open back up very soon, and we'll see if Australia's box office is there or not. But yeah,
true.
like, I think Shang-Chi is at least a good start. It had a big box office opening weekend. We'll see in the second weekend whether or not it manages to hold. Because a big thing with a lot of these movies is some of them have had quite good opening weekends. Like Free Guy had quite a good opening weekend. But then we'll see if the second weekend drops significantly. Because some movies have dropped huge margins. Like the Suicide Squad, I think, dropped like 75% in its second weekend, which is really bad. But those are theatrical movies right now. It's a very, uncertain time. It's a good sign that Sony has pushed forward the release of Venom because it means that Spider-Man hopefully will actually come out and isn't delayed. Because there were talks that Venom was going to get pushed back till next year. So the fact that it's been pushed forward, I think, is a good sign. So maybe blockbuster movies are coming back in full swing.
Let's hope so. Lockie.
We're praying.
Oh, yeah, I'm praying. Because, we were talking about it the other day. We were like, when was the last time we've been to the movie cinema, like, together? I think it was Joker that we all went, went into the city, got some popcorn.
Yeah.
Looks like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
At least.
Like, at least. And it was such good fun because, you come out of the cinema, everyone would be like, that was fucking amazing. Now it's like, put a thing on the TV.
Yeah, just kind of like, watch something on Netflix.
You take the piss out of it as well. Like we're watching Maligma last
balls.
night. And yeah, exactly. And we're just making comments throughout. And I feel like, you obviously can't do that in the cinema. You have to kind of...
Exactly. There is something to be said for the theatrical experience that we're just missing right now. And even some movies have released this year that have been great, but we've watched them at home, and it's just not the same. Like, just watching a big blockbuster on a small screen, there's something wrong about that. So it's going to be very exciting when we...
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Depending on your setup, it can be...
Ferg, just so you guys know, Ferg has a fucking massive TV. The biggest I've ever seen.
The cock. Definitely not compensating.
Tell me how you really feel.
Sorry, is this a safe for work podcast?
No, it's not. You can.
Considering what you're about to talk about, I assume this would be fine to talk.
Yeah, no,
size of my TV.
Last week we were calling someone Storm cunt, so I think anything's off the table.
That's true.
No, it's pushing it.
Yeah, but we do have a mini cinema, and we have a lot of seating arrangements.
Yeah. You can spend as much money as you want. It's never going to match it. It's never going to match the whole experience.
Yeah, overpriced food.
Yeah, having stale popcorn. Yeah, people on their phones in front of you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Someone farting like really, really badly, like a silent but deadly.
Forgetting to turn off your phone.
Yeah.
All of it. Love it all.
Like a dead dog in the aisle that just stinks.
What kind of movie theaters do you go to? Like, I don't think you're going to normal movie theaters.
It's called Melbourne, right?
Right.
Uncultured swine.
Melbourne's the home of the arts. It should be like the best theater going experience.
It's so true, dude. Our movie theaters are in alleyways. Yeah. We sit on milk crates and drink coffee while we watch our films.
And like sometimes there'd be like crackheads that would just sneak in. And they'd, just ask you for your ticket, but they'd actually kill you.
You can't get that experience at home. So...
Exactly.
Everyone's missing out now. Now, I do quickly want to touch on another bit of news surrounding Venom 2. Its runtime was revealed, and it is 90 minutes. And that is fantastic. It is so short, which is exactly what this fucking movie needs to be. Because the first one... I know you like it, Lucas, but it is one of the worst movies ever made. And it is only entertaining because Tom Hardy's taking the piss the entire time. And if this movie's only an hour and a half, then it means that they're just going to cram everything in to a short runtime. It's going to be fast-paced, over and done with, and I can move on with my life. So frankly, I'm very excited for its 90-minute runtime.
Okay.
Finally, someone said it.
Okay. Shots fired. All right. Yeah. Jesus.
I think some movies don't need to be 2 hours long.
Yeah, true.
Some movies don't need to exist, and I think Venom would probably fall into that category. But here we are, an hour and a half, better than 2 hours. I think it's probably a good idea.
So, yeah. So, a bit of good news to end off the news segment this week.
Yeah.
But it's sad news for Lucas.
Yeah, fuck my life, I guess. 90 minutes is... I can't do 90 minutes. I need at least 120. Come on. You pump those numbers up. All right? But yeah, I'm still happy it's coming out.
Good.
Venom could have been a TikTok for me.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. It could have been 1 minute long, and it would have been just as good.
Fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that is the end of the news this week. We'll try not to always talk about superhero movies. It's just they dominate the news each week. But that's all right.
All good.
So let's get into James Wan's new movie. Now, James Wan is quite a prolific horror movie director. He started 3 franchises: Saw, Insidious, and Conjuring has a whole cinematic universe. All right? He's killed those movies. In addition, he's made pretty good blockbuster movies for the studios, like Fast and Furious 7 and Aquaman. They get the job done. You know, they're good, action movies. They're not the best, but they're good. But definitely his bread and butter is horror movies. And he's come back with a new horror movie. And I must say, I think I touched on it last week. I'm a huge Conjuring fan. Conjuring 1 and 2 I think are fucking fantastic. I think they reinvigorated like supernatural horror movies. And I was very disappointed when I found out that James Wan wasn't coming back to direct the 3rd Conjuring movie. And I didn't know why. I was like, why has he left this franchise? Because every single franchise he's left, it immediately got worse. So, and Conjuring 3 was fine, but it's nowhere near as good as the first 2. So I was a bit depressed. I was like, why did he not direct the 3rd Conjuring movie? And it turns out it's because he directed a whole nother movie instead. And it is called Malignant. Now, what did you boys think of it?
My leg and my balls. Yeah, no. We watched it together. And the start was a bit shaky.
Can I take the opening scene? Can I talk about it? Because I've got some thoughts.
Yeah.
Someone explain. I want James Wan to talk about that opening scene. It doesn't. In reference to the film, it makes 0 sense in terms of the style. Like, was it? I was waiting for it to just pan out and it to be a movie within a movie. I was waiting for that to happen. I was waiting. It seemed so self-aware. The script was over the top, exaggerated acting.
Yeah.
I don't get it, and I knew that it seemed like such an intentional choice.
That's the thing.
And I was just thinking the whole time, waiting for it to come out and explain why it existed. But in reference to the whole rest of the film, it made 0 sense.
Exactly. That opening sequence is so inconsistent with the rest of the movie, and it's so jarring when you then realize what the movie is. It's like, why did they start the movie off this way? You need a strong opening to pull people in. And you're right. Like, the opening was so cheesy and schlocky. The line that was like...
Bay-esque.
Yeah, the line that was like, time to cut out the cancer, as she looks at the camera and is like, ho, ho, ho. It's like, what the fuck? Like, it's so cheap. It feels like a shitty action movie from the 80s where it's like the time to save the day, and it's just, what the fuck? It's so...
There's room for that. There is a style of horror movie that is that schlocky, self-aware.
Amazing example of that is Evil Dead 2, which was directed by Sam Raimi, and that is horror comedy where it's so schlocky intentionally and it nails it the entire time, and it's brilliant, right? So you can go for this tone, and as well, like, James Wan's a competent director, so if he wanted to do that, then he could. So that's why I'm struggling to understand whether or not this is, like, bad or whether this is, like, exactly what he wanted to do.
It makes me feel silly because I know he's a good director. I know it would have been intentional, but I have no reason to think why. I have no explanation for it. So it makes you as a viewer feel silly. I don't know why he chose it. And I'm excited for, like, if there's more behind the scenes or commentary coming out, because I feel like it really needs some explanation. That movie in general felt very disjointed. I felt like it was 3 different genres of horror cut up, and they couldn't decide which one they wanted to stick with. And I think if they actually stuck with that comedy, self-aware, just at the start, which also compiled into the end, where it was very, like, pretty much an action film.
Yes, yeah.
That almost could tie in with the start. And if they just kept that going throughout the whole thing, I think maybe would have benefited from it. But no, they decided to start the first third with a traditional James Wan demon, spooky, walk around the house. And for a horror fan like us, we've seen this a million times. It's old.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It was just old. It's not original.
Exactly.
The middle was a boring crime thriller. Not like it wasn't. It was a crime thriller. It wasn't that interesting. And then it just went. He brought the Furious 7 to horror at the end.
Yeah. And at times as well throughout the middle, it becomes a slasher. And it's an amalgamation of just every kind of horror movie. It feels like they were chucking everything against the wall and seeing what sticks. And look, there are elements of the movie that I think are really good. Firstly, James Wan is always amazing with the cinematography and the visuals. This is no exception. It's a beautiful looking movie a lot of the time. There's the shot where it's a bird's eye view of the house as she moves through it.
Yes.
Amazing shot. Right? And it's very reminiscent in the Conjuring movies how the camera would move through the walls, and it's a very fluid camera, right? Brilliant. He nails that. I think as well, another thing really helped this movie was James Wan movies always have good monster designs. And I think this movie does have a good monster design. The fact that he's essentially, his head is backwards, or his body's backwards and his head's facing that way, I think it's one of the best parts of the movie because it's like Uncanny Valley, the way he moves and goes to kill people. It's honestly, that's one of the only terrifying aspects of the movie is that he moves really like strangely and your brain just struggles to comprehend the fact that he's moving that way. That's probably the best aspect of it.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about the final fight scene in the police station a lot. Because when it came on, I mean, when in the prison cell, and then she goes out Gabriel, goes out into the main kind of lobby of the police station, and it just turns into like a John Wick film. Like the camera's kind of like, with Gabriel as he's slashing.
It's a good fight scene.
It is a really good fight scene. Like, I mean, I was in awe that it just kind of turned it up to 11. And we were just, sitting there watching this slasher monster go ham. And I really like that. I feel like more films should, have a good concept of a monster and see it go ham. I
think that is one of the aspects of the movie that James Wan does. He understands horror. And with these horror movies that have, like, a monster, the second you reveal the monster, the movie is less scary, right? So typically you'll see with sequels, either it's just not as scary because they revealed the monster in the first movie and then it's just not as scary. Or they completely pivot and turn it into an action movie. Great example, Alien and Aliens, right? Alien, horror movie, terrifying. They reveal the alien at the end of the movie. So then in the sequel, you get James Cameron and he's like, well, we're not going to make a horror movie now. We're going to make an action movie because we've revealed the monster. People aren't going to be as scared by it. So let's go for a fucking good action movie. And it delivers and it's brilliant. So what this movie does is it reveals the monster like kind of, halfway through and then pivots to being an action movie because it knows at this point you're no longer scared by the monster because you've seen it, right? Yeah. So then I think it was a brilliant decision to change genres at the end and turn it into an action movie because they revealed the monster. However, it does make the film feel disjointed because it's just so jarring to go from a more traditional horror movie to that action movie so quickly.
Yeah. Because we were saying, it doesn't feel like a full James Wan film. Like, only the small part where she's in her house, that really feels like a James Wan film and those zoom-ins. But other than that, it, like, I couldn't have told. I couldn't really tell, if someone told me, oh, some director, directed this, I couldn't guess. I literally wouldn't have guessed.
I could have done, if I had to replace one part, it would be that first third of the film.
Yeah.
I love James Wan, but we've done this. There was I could see you could see it all coming in that first third.
Oh, yeah.
It's not bad. It's just it's done, and he needs to evolve that if he wants to stick with like the ghost and the demon and the paranormal activity, he needs to evolve it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to stick with it. I think the next thing is going to come out, the next trend, and it might be him or it might be another director to set it.
See,
Yeah.
and I think that's at least something that James Wan has been good at, is that he hasn't stuck to, in terms of a concept, he's always tried to change it up. I think this is an example where he didn't do a great job changing it up, but at least he tried to, so you have Insidious, and it's like, well, instead of taking demons to be literal, Christianity type demons, let's make this whole fucking parallel dimension type, like, other world where these just weird beings exist. Let's completely change it up, right? Then you have The Conjuring, where it's like, okay, now let's do that Christianity shit, but let's actually tie it to real world historical events. And now you have, okay, another supernatural take, his third kind of franchise, starting off as a supernatural type franchise. And the concept is kind of around essentially having like a parasite in you and having kind of a body transformation. And that's kind of the angle he takes this version. And it just, the parts that work are when it goes into all the visions and the dream sequences.
Yes.
Those parts are fucking amazing. The way that the universe around her falls apart and then rebuilds itself, brilliant. The instant one of those comes on, you're pulled straight back into the movie, because the rest of it is just really boring scenes and that drag on for way too long. It's very slowly paced at the start.
Very half-assed.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the character building, like how they try to do a relationship with the detective and the main character's sister. Was that needed? No, not at all.
No, because they don't take it anywhere.
Exactly, but they fucking put it in there, so...
I think the worst part of the character development is right at the end, when she's like, I didn't need to look for a relative because you were there all along. You'll always be my sister. It's like, where the fuck is this coming from? Like, this was not a theme throughout any of the movie so far, and now it's just being shoved down your throat. And exactly. I think that tells to the issue I think this movie has, and I almost don't want to blame James Wan for it, is that it's so poorly written. And I think, a director can only do so much with a bad script. And I think that's the issue, because all of the lines of dialogue suck, and the story for the most part sucks. So
yes, we actually were talking about that. The scene, obviously, when she announces to the sister that she's adopted. Well, we all just burst out laughing. It was so poorly done. She was like, "I'm adopted," and then the flash of lightning, and everyone was like, not like in awe that it was just so stupid. And we were trying to be serious with the film, because it was like, oh, James Wan, like, he's taking it seriously. There's, nothing to take the piss out of, but it was just like asking to be laughed at, I feel like.
I think Lockie's right. I think the writing was poor. I think James Wan should be blocked from making any horror movies without Leigh Whannell. I think he should direct only screenplays written by Leigh Whannell, and just take it back to what works. The two RMIT students, starting off with Saw number 1, and just he's an amazing writer, and James Wan understands his writing. I'm not 100% sure who wrote *Malignant*, but I know it wasn't Leigh Whannell.
Yeah,
and it might not have been James Wan's fault, but the writing is poor.
Yeah,
the script is poor. It might not be the actor's fault, although the acting is not great.
See, my big issue is, like, look, Patrick Wilson wasn't a huge actor, right? James Wan probably made Patrick Wilson into a star. But in saying that, he's an amazing fucking actor, and they did a brilliant job casting him. And it just shows that you can find good actors that aren't necessarily famous yet. And this movie is filled with, like, no-name kind of actors, and that's fine as long as you cast, like, you do a good job casting them. And I don't think they did a particularly good job casting them, because they all feel like wet cloths. I mean, none of them have any unique character traits at all. I think the person who plays Madison/Emily, I think she does an okay job, and she's probably the best out of the cast, but she's still not great. And I wrote in my notes that I think there's not enough Patrick Wilson in this movie. I think he might have been the special magic, because he's so good in
He
Insidious and Conjuring. And it's just, I miss Patrick Wilson, man.
He's a God-given gift. Like he just made scenes feel serious in like a in like I feel like it's yeah, it is still easy to laugh at, like, you know, especially if you're rewatching like the Insidiouses and the Conjuring movies. Like it's kind of easy to laugh at them, especially like the first Conjuring. Like you kind of laugh at, oh, I used to be scared of this. But no, he definitely brings back the seriousness and you know, the real imperativeness of the situation, if that makes sense. Like it's like kind of makes you worry for, you know, the group of people.
And the brilliant thing I think about the characters within Insidious, Conjuring, and even Saw is that in a lot of generic horror movies, the main characters are literally just there for horror to happen to them, and they have no agency over the story. They don't, you know, they can't fight back. They don't do any of that. Whereas in James Wan's horror movies in the past, the main characters have always had agency in the story. They can affect whatever paranormal or monster that they're facing, and they can try to get out of the situations they're in, which is just more interesting to watch. You don't want to see this one-sided battle. And in this movie, for the large part, it doesn't feel like any of the characters have agency. The detective does do a good enough job fighting back, but it just doesn't feel like, outside of Emily/Madison and Gabriel, it doesn't feel like any of the characters can do anything about what's going on. It's just up to Emily Madison to figure out what the fuck's going on.
I agree. Yeah, no, the cops in the movie are very other than
they're like generic horror movie cops, right?
Exactly. They're like, well, other than, I mean, being right the entire time, like I guess the lady officer was like from the start, oh, she did it. I mean, she was right, but, you know, I guess it wasn't her, but it was her, if that makes sense. Because I remember her saying at the start, she was like, oh, you know, seems like it's obvious that she did it.
Yeah, I sent a message to Lucas, like when I was watching the movie, and I had written in my notes. Wait, I want to say what. Oh, okay. Exactly what I said was, I bet Gabriel is on the back of Madison's head like Voldemort, and I was 100% correct. I got it. I was like, fuck. Like, and that just shows how obvious this movie is. Like I figured that out way too early on. A good mystery, right? A good mystery does allow the audience to figure out what's going on, but it allows the audience to do it right before it reveals it. In this, I figured it out like almost like less than halfway through, right? And that's not a good sign of a good mystery.
It was pretty predictable, yeah.
But I didn't predict, well, the lady falling through the roof. I didn't predict the lair to be up in the top of the house. I thought that was hilarious, by the way, that she just fell through the roof. Yeah. And you're like, oh shit, she's obviously going to like fall on another floor, but then she just falls right to the where the main group is, and you're just I just had to lol. But I feel like it kind of hinted towards it, you know, Gabriel being on the back of her head, especially when she was in the bathroom and she had her head turned back towards the mirror. Yeah. I was like I was expecting something.
Her head kept bleeding, and her abusive husband pushed her against the wall, and like it was the back of her head, and it just felt like everything. And the fact that the guy's backwards the entire time, it kind of it made a lot of sense. That's what was going to happen, and it inevitably did.
I felt it in scene one. I remember thinking exactly that, because in the first scene, when the partner dies and she runs back to her room and something is pushing the door open and there's nothing there. The door's just, she's holding the door shut. The door's banging open, but there's nothing pushing it.
Yeah.
The first thing I thought when I saw that was, it's her.
Exactly. And I don't think the movie doesn't do a good job misdirecting you, because there's a few elements of like, oh, she experiences horror throughout her house, but it's fairly clear that like, she's done, like she's the one doing it. Like there's no other possible person it could be. Like it's made clear at the very start of the movie that these characters have a relationship. So then you're automatically assuming it's like she is Gabriel, and they never give an alternative. So it's just very easy to unpack what's happening.
Yeah, but oh well. It was a very, very cool concept, though. I have to like.
Oh yeah, we're getting riled up on the parts that were bad, but it was entertaining.
It was very
It got me
entertaining.
through. If it wasn't directed by James Wan, I probably wouldn't shit on it as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just he's made great stuff before that we have to call him out for it. You can't set such a high standard and then give us this. But it definitely was worth a watch. If you're a horror fan, there's something new in this. That idea hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
Sure, it's not done the best it could be, but it is something new. And with horror, the more you watch, the more you need new stuff. You get desensitized.
Exactly.
It's hard to get scared these days. I find myself watching horror movies that everyone else say are terrifying, and I struggle to get scared, and I miss getting scared.
Okay.
That's why we watch these movies.
I'm curious.
So seeing something new was refreshing.
What do you think of Hereditary?
Hereditary was really engaging. I wouldn't say it was a new concept, but the actual way it was filmed was completely new.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I remember showing that to Luke, and just waiting for the scene to come up that we all know what scene it is. Just looking at him, I was looking at his reaction more than the film.
For 2 nights after the film.
No, I know. It's honestly a terrifying movie, and I think that's just a great example of a modern horror movie that is taking a concept that's very familiar and tries to do something completely new with it. And that works really well for Hereditary. And at least Malignant had a new concept to to delve in with. And
A for effort.
Yeah.
On that behalf.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately the through line in all James Wan movies is the creativity in the horror and coming up with these concepts. It's second to none. Like, he's a genius for coming up with these ideas. It's just in this case that they're not as well executed. And I'm sure in the next movie they probably will be. Like, every director has a bad movie every now and then. And this is just bad for James Wan's standard. Like, again, compared to another horror movie director, it's probably would have been one of their best movies.
Compared to 90% of horror movies out these days, it's good. There is a lot of bad horror out there. It's cheap to make and it's easily sold.
Yeah.
There is a lot of bad horror movies, and that's why this genre gets a bad rap. So James Wan having that kind of icon that you can say, this is what we like, we need people like that. So I really hope, he can continue do what he does.
Okay, Lucas, what are your closing thoughts?
Well, honestly, I agree, because I've seen James Wan's films, and they have been insane. Like, he has... and then, obviously, Saw as well, watching that. Like, he started so much in the industry itself. And he's a messed up dude, obviously, to have come up with all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, aren't we all? Obviously. But like, he's got a very special mind and a very intricate mind. And I feel like this was just another experiment. He definitely, I understood why he went over the top at the start. Like, he was like, I've never really had the chance to go over the top with one of his creations of this, parasite, half human, Siamese twin clusterfuck of a thing.
Yeah.
So he's like, he really wanted to be like, oh, this is a powerful being, and just go over the top and Michael Bay it up. But I mean, I feel like keeping it subtle has really worked for him in the past, obviously with Conjuring and stuff. But I'd say this movie was a good watch, but I hope he learns from it to be like, okay, I need to take it back a notch. Hopefully he comes more down to earth. I would like for him to try do more realistic topics and focus on more real life horror. Conflict.
I know exactly what you mean, because one of my big issues with this movie is the fact that they why does she have superpowers? Why does Gabriel and Emily have superpowers?
Exactly.
Why are they super strong?
She does parkour.
There's no explanation.
Gabriel has been practicing parkour on the back of her head, so when he took over, he was able to just parkour. Makes sense.
Because the only explanation given is that he's like a conjoined twin, essentially. But that doesn't explain why he's super strong and knows parkour and can crack open a skull and then close it back up. Like, no explanation.
No explanation. Yeah, I think he needs to come more down to earth. Like Saw. What was that? It was just a creepy old guy. There was hated, ungrateful people.
Yeah.
Insidious and Conjuring obviously are a little bit more far-fetched, but they're still like...
Well, Conjuring especially, makes a big deal about being a true story. And I think the way it leans into that actually does ground the film quite a bit and helps to scare you. Because I think the big issue with supernatural horror is that at the end of the day, most people walk away saying, that's never going to happen, right? You may get some people who may be a bit more Christian that may be like, oh, fuck, that was scary. I mean, that shit happens. That shit happens, right? Right? But the average person probably will walk away being like, oh, that was a great horror movie, but that's never going to happen in real life. And I think the brilliant thing of the Conjuring movies is they do ground them as much as possible in being true stories, because, I mean, they are true stories. And I think that really helps those movies. But yeah, just to close on my thoughts, I mean, all of the good elements of James Wan are here. Set design is good, monster design is good, cinematography is good, the score is on point. It's a bunch of synths, and it made me think the thing was going to be alien in origin, because synths are very alien, but it wasn't, or at least we don't know.
Talk about that. We were going to touch on that. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, I disagree. I feel like the score was way too harsh, way too cyberpunky.
Yeah.
It was just over the top. Way too over the top.
Here's the thing. The score was memorable, and when it worked, it did work. I agree. I remember seeing the scene where the old man that dies in the hotel room, not the hotel room, in the apartment room with the neon red signs.
Yeah.
That scene, he's at the window, and there's the shot where Gabriel's behind him, and the music blasts, and it's like, no, you didn't need it there. That should have been absolutely silent, and that would have played much better. So what I would say is I think the score is good, but I think the timing and the placement of the score sometimes is a bit off. When it works, it does work, but a lot of the time it's just badly placed. But it's very memorable music.
I feel like it was trying to be. Considering James Wan's past, he wouldn't be seeing this as a one-off film. I mean, the people who are paying him to make the film would want more films from this. The music has to be memorable because they're going to use it again if they can.
No, exactly. And we see at the end of the movie, Gabriel says something like, "Oh, you can't keep me locked away forever," and she says, "Yeah, but I'll be more prepared next time." And then the very closing shot, the light, there's a lamp that flickers, so it's very clear that they're setting up a sequel. At this rate, I doubt it's going to happen, just because this movie has kind of bombed at the box office. What are you going to do? But yeah, that's Malignant.
That's Maligma.
Maligma balls. Well, let's move on to James Wan. What put James Wan on the map? All right, Saw. Oh. And I've got to be completely honest. All right, I've been terrified of watching this movie. I've never wanted to watch Saw in my entire life. I've always heard... I remember being a kid and talking with people about Saw. Of course, none of us had ever seen it, but it was one of those things that you would talk about, oh, there's this movie where someone has to cut out a key from their eye and shit, and you'd be like, whoa, that's fucked up. And it's one of those movies that's very talked about, especially when we were growing up, because they were releasing when we were real little kids. And it was one of those movies that we'd always talk about. And then when I grew up, it was just I never wanted to see it, because the idea of it was scarier in my mind than what it actually ended up being.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't want to see this gory, I can't remember the term, but it's kind of like gruesome porn or whatever. People who...
Torture porn.
Torture porn, that's it. It's torture porn. And I was like, I've got no time for that, right? But
I need to touch on that torture porn genre.
Yeah.
Because James Wan gets thrown under the bus because of Saw 1. And I don't know if anyone's actually watched Saw 1 recently. It's not that...
Exactly.
It's not that gory. He's come out and said that was not his aim. He said he the traps were purposely filmed to not be gory, to show you what happened, but to not be gory.
Exactly.
Because it's not about that. And the fact that that's what stuck from the first film shows how silly the audience was and how people were so sensitive at the time. And that the marketing people behind the whole franchise just stuck with it. And I'm not sure why he left the franchise, but I wouldn't be surprised if he left after hearing what the marketing team was going to do with the next 8 films.
Yeah.
They were going to double down on that, get rid of the money that you can put towards the story, forget about it. No one cares about the story.
Yeah.
Double down on the gore, double down on what sold the first film. Because the first film wasn't that gory. There was 3 traps. It took up maybe 20% of the film.
No, like apparently, well, it felt like only like 3 minutes of the entire film that you would see, and like what the guy. There was one where a guy had to climb through razor blades, and I feel like he should be covered in more blood, like honest to God, but he was just
Did you see him climb through the razors?
Well, like
no, exactly. You saw him in fast motion.
Yeah, it was fast motion. Yeah,
which it was a good effect, to be honest.
And then there's the guy who is stepping on glass and has to open a safe, and he's covered in oil to burn him, and he's got a candle, and then he has to find the numbers to the safe.
It's a horrible idea. Yeah. In your head, it's a horrible idea. But it's nothing compared to the movies that followed it that ran off the fact that was the part that sold that film.
Yeah.
Hostel being probably the first one that comes to mind. Anything by Eli Roth, really. Those movies are a bit different. They actually show that stuff.
Yeah.
And there is an audience for that. If you like it, you like
it.
But James Wan, that's not what he intended to do with this film.
What I think as well is that similar to like monster horror, right? The second you show the monster, it becomes less scary. I think the same kind of applies for gore. If you don't show it, then what we think in our minds is actually worse than when you show it, and it's like some shitty bad effect. And
especially with good sound design, I think that can be more effective.
Brilliant, yeah, exactly. And so this very first Saw movie, nowhere near as gory as I ever thought it would be, and it really helped actually watching the movie. And it's brilliant what James Wan is able to do with essentially one set piece, that being the bathroom. Yes, there are other sets, but really it's mainly that bathroom. And this goes to a quick thing I touched on. In James Wan's catalog, set design has always been a big strength. That bathroom looks miserable, disgusting. It's exactly what you need it to be this like escape room that no one would ever want to find themselves in, and that's what makes it scary. So it's a brilliant little bathroom set they've got.
Cleaner than Lucas's bathroom in this house. I'd rather be in that bathroom.
Really?
Bit of shade there.
With a little love heart painted in shit on the toilet?
I would still rather be there.
Wow, okay. Well, I keep my keys down the bathtub.
Wait, I think I'm getting called. James, is that you? Oh, you want to film the next Saw in Lucas's bath? Yeah, well, yeah. No, that's 100% what's going to happen.
Well, it's a pretty small one. It'll probably be...
it's a short film. It's a TikTok.
It'll just be me, and I'm not even chained up. I'll just be like, I got a saw off my leg.
Yeah,
fucking no.
You'll just be on drugs and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, I got a saw off my fucking leg. But yeah, it was still a great film. I'd like to touch on the budget of the film.
We're doing a bit of an early budget boys this week.
Early budget boys this week. And we actually need to talk about, obviously...
So Ferg, if you're not aware, we have this regular segment on our show.
I'm aware. I'm a long-time listener.
Oh, good. Well, if just for those listening who aren't aware, we have a segment called Budget Boys. I think last week we called it Budget Brothers. I don't know. The name keeps changing. Who gives a shit? And we just discussed the budget of movies.
The budget bandidos.
The budget baristas.
Fuck.
Now there's 3.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. But yeah, so the budget for Saw was $1.3 million.
Brilliant. How many saws could you make for Jungle Cruise?
200.
Oh wow, that's a lot of saws.
For one Jungle Cruise.
That 200 saws would be better than one Jungle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sure Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would. Imagine a Saw with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
He would just like break out of it with
would
his
just take-
arms. Like he'd just be like fucking bang.
Yeah, that's true.
He wouldn't be able to saw through anything. All parts of him is just too thick.
Exactly right. The blade would break on his leg.
The reverse bear trap, he would just fucking open it himself. It's like,
But I think what you're going for is the $1.3 million budget to the $103 million box office.
Yes, that is a massive fucking return.
Forget about crypto. Invest in Saw.
Exactly, 100 time return. Unbelievable.
I'm gonna get up the Malignant.
I reckon Maligma was probably. I'm gonna say it was probably like 80 million.
Half that.
Oh, okay, that's all right then. That's okay.
That's pretty good. 40 million.
That's
Wow.
pretty good. The
That's
CGI in that movie was pretty good, so I thought that.
I reckon they blew half their budget on those transition scenes into the nightmare dreams.
But yeah, I'm actually quite impressed, to be honest. I thought it was going to be like 75 to 65 because I was like, oh, there's a lot of cop cars.
There's a lot of cop cars in this fucking
the set, I guess, LA, the destination setting. And I was like, okay, that's a bit expensive. But like, I'm also sick of, all these films taking place in America. Is that because they just want to do scenes with guns, or, like?
Well, because think about like they're pandering to an American audience, right? Like if you look at Box Office Mojo, like you have the domestic box office, which is America, and then you have the international box office, and domestic always makes up half. So even though most of the world doesn't live in America, half of moviegoers do. So that's what they always do.
That's ridiculous. Is that true?
Yeah, most movies typically it's 50% United States, 50% rest of the world.
Wow.
I mean,
That is ridiculous.
Aquaman's different. Aquaman made a lot of fucking money in China because they just love underwater, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's not go into China's Hollywood connections, because don't get me started.
Okay, back to Saw. I think the funny thing with Saw is this. I mean, look, it doesn't hide the fact it's got a low budget. Yes, the bathroom is cool, but everything else is very clear that it's got a low budget, especially when they're driving those cars and it's just pitch black and the camera's like shaking to try to trick you into it's a car, and they're like, I'm driving a car.
I'm going into straight line.
Yeah. And
No, I think all the budget was also saved on the script.
Yeah.
I think another example of Malignant. So I've sent you, Slocky, I just sent you on Discord a link to a video that shows the perfect script moment in Saw combined with the perfect acting moment in Saw to just show that this has been a problem with James Wan for a long time. He just doesn't seem to get these things right. And Malignant is no difference. So if you need to watch something that will prove this to you, there is a part in Saw where he answers his phone from his wife, Saw 1. He answers his phone from his wife. And I don't know what happened, but the actor had a moment captured on film. And when Lucas and I watched it the other day, we had to rewind it 3 times. It was that funny.
It was so good. It was
I'll make sure to link it. I'll link it in the description so everyone go out and watch that little clip. I think I know the exact moment you're talking about. And yes, the acting in this movie isn't the best. And I think the best example of that is the doctor at the end of the movie.
Yes.
So he cuts off his leg. Firstly, of course, they don't have any way of hiding the fact that he still has a foot. So they just
wrap
make
it
his
up.
pant leg a bit longer. Still very clear he's got a fucking foot. But anyway, it's the best they can do. We'll forgive it. And then for some reason, they cover him in white makeup, and he's like, I'm gonna get you out of here. I'll save you. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, this is overacting 101. Like, he's committing to this bit. He's like, I remember, I think on the set, he was probably like, I'm gonna fucking nail this scene. Like, I've cut off my leg. I'm gonna be in the moment. I'm gonna, like, method act this shit. And then he's like, and it's like, bro, what are you doing?
I agree. Like, it was funnier to watch. I like that. Then that's the weird thing. Because I was talking before about how you see the Conjuring, first Conjuring, right? It scares the shit out of you. Then you see it like a couple of years later, and you're like, I can't believe I actually used to like be scared of this shit. Like, I feel like at the time, this used to be the scariest thing. Like, I remember seeing like an interview from James Wan and the other director who also acted as the photographer, um,
Yeah.
the other victim, I guess. And yeah, they were just like talking about the reception they got from like all these people, just being like, "Oh, this is the scariest movie I've ever seen. Like this whole concept's messed up. Like you guys should go to jail, but not like that far. But it just kind of shows you, how much time has passed since you last saw these movies. So it'd be good to get someone who actually watched it when it first came out and get their actual.
Well, the interesting thing with the Saw franchise is there's like the mainline Saw movies, and then they tried rebooting it with, I think it was called Jigsaw. No, yeah, Jigsaw. And then they've now rebooted it a second time with Spiral. And I mean, all I've heard is bad things about every subsequent Saw movie.
I was so disappointed when Spiral got back. I still haven't got around to watching it because I don't want them to ruin this again.
Yeah.
They had a chance here to reboot Saw after what it became, which realistically was just the opportunity for porn actresses to get out of porn and go into film. Half the actresses from the latest Saw films came from porn. If you haven't been made aware of that
Well,
yet.
now I'm going to go watch those movies. You shouldn't have told me that.
Yeah, well, there's not much to it. That is pretty much the description of the last couple of films. So they had a really good opportunity.
Chris Rock
with
and
Spiral,
Samuel L. Jackson are not porn stars. Thank you very much. I think I know.
Okay, I was talking about before Spiral. I mean, I would love to see that porn. No, not in that kind of way.
Get down on your knees, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, Spiral. I've heard some horrible things, so I'm not sure if I want to watch it. But yeah, they had an opportunity there. Turns out, kind of ruined it.
Yes. And just with the first Saw as well. I mean, I went into it knowing, I've never seen it before, but I knew that Jigsaw was lying on the floor dead the entire time, or faking his death the entire time.
How did you know that?
That's, to me, I don't know. To me, that was like Darth Vader being Luke's father. Like I've always known that, even though I've never seen the movie, and I don't even know how or where it came from. I just know that. It didn't ruin the movie for me though, because ultimately,
it's not a big deal, but it is. Yeah, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really change the story too much, but it is kind of like a good way to end the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is disappointing. You went into it like that.
At the same time, like when they were like, he got up and then it had a flashback to the doctor, and then he was the patient, in that doctor's room. I was like, you honestly could have left this out. Like, this made no sense. Like, why would
so I do have a question. Yeah. Why? So Jigsaw's whole thing is essentially he got cancer and he's realized that life, there's more meaning to life, and people don't recognize that living their own lives. So I'm going to put them into situations where they're likely going to die so that they realize how good life is, or whatever.
Look, it's a silly premise, but to be fair, if we're just talking about Saw 1, it's not really discussed in Saw 1. It's insinuated, and it's nothing like the sequels, which almost justify that idea. If you watch the next ones, you'll see they almost go on the side of Jigsaw, and it looks like they're kind of promoting that idea. But in the first one, to be fair, they don't actually specifically say that was his goal, but it is insinuated. So yeah, if we're talking about the first one, then I don't agree. But in the following films, 100%, the people writing that film kind of agree with him. Those people need to be watched.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just weird because, like, what was the reason why the doctor was in there? Was it just simply the fact that that Jigsaw was one of his patients?
And Zap as well. We were talking about that. Like, why was Zap in there?
Yeah.
As well, because
there was no reason. He did nothing wrong. He was just doing his job.
And he was being nice, like, because the doctor was like, oh, the patient. Then he came and he was like, oh, he has a name, So I was like, okay, this guy, obviously, might be the bad guy, and it turned out that he was, but he still wasn't.
He was working with Jigsaw.
Yeah, but he was still.
He was getting blackmailed as well.
Victim, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's a victim in this movie, but, well, Jigsaw's a victim of cancer, I guess.
No, it doesn't. The logic doesn't hold up. But that's why I feel like they don't try. They don't try and explain it.
They very quickly, like, they just hint at it. That's all they do. They get over it very quickly. And the premise is just they're in an escape room. They've got to escape. And that is what the movie is best at. Like, they've got all of these puzzles around the room that they've got to figure out. Yeah. And ultimately, so I guess the point is that, the doctor's, is it called the Hippocratic Oath or whatever? I don't know. I probably butchered that. But the doctor's oath is never to do harm to others, right? Or something along those lines.
Yes. Yeah,
so then it's making the doctor kill someone is Jigsaw's ultimate goal.
Oh.
And it's with the poison cigarette. What I don't get, right? There were 2 cigarettes in that box, right? And he dips one of them in blood. And then what cigarette does he give to the guy, and why does the guy not get poisoned?
Because they fake it. He dips one in blood, makes sure the camera can see that he's dipping it in the poison, throws him the clean cigarette so he can pretend to die. So the person would open up and end the escape.
Here's what I don't get about that, because that's what I was assumed was going on, but it doesn't make sense, because if the guy gets the other cigarette and there's blood on one end, firstly, you can't light the end that's got blood on it, and you're not going to stick the end with blood on it in your mouth. Like, no one's just going to stick a bloody cigarette in their mouth.
That's true.
No, he handed them the other cigarette that didn't have blood.
But his point is, yes.
To actually...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'd think he'd notice something like that. Yeah.
And also, his fake death is horrendous. Like, that's not fooling anyone, mate.
I think it's meant to be. I think it's meant to be crappy. Lee Winnell, he's a good actor. If you didn't know, that was Lee Winnell, the photographer. Yeah. The writer was the photographer. He's mostly cameos. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. But no, I do like how the first movie definitely is focused around the 2 characters. Like, yeah, the others are more focused around the traps. This is more focused about the audience learning who these 2 people are, and then at the end realizing that they're actually more connected than we,
Well, every James Wan movie every one of his horror movies have always been a mystery, right? Saw, Insidious, Conjuring, they're always mysteries. And this is the first one where it really delves into the mystery, and you're trying to figure out, why are they in there? What's going on? Because essentially they wake up and they don't remember anything, right, before them being put into this bathroom. And the audience is playing along, figuring it out as they figure out the puzzles, and it's great.
It works. It works very well because, we get to... Well, I mean, the way that they could have... and they kind of did go off on in the second and the third and the fourth is, they got worse people to do these, these traps. So which one's with the house? They're like the second one where they're stuck in a house. There's obviously they got like shittier people who have, no they have no real moral support.
It's easier to justify than just someone cheating on their wife. It's really the first reason.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool how they expand on that, but that's really it. That's really all you could do with this kind of film, I guess. But that also I wanted to touch on. So we're talking about how I was like you, Lockie. I just knew, like someone told me, the body's alive in Saw or some shit. But I swear, like when I was watching it for the first time, I swear one of them says, "Oh, I don't remember." Like that's the first dead body I've ever seen. I don't remember them like dead bodies to be moving or something like that. So I was like, "Oh, okay." He's shown the fact that there's like a moving dead body. Like, why? Like, what's the big deal then? Like, why shouldn't they inspect the dead body? Do you guys remember that, or am I just?
I remember you bringing that up at the time, but I don't remember them saying that. I remember thinking, did they say that? And I don't think they did. But yeah, maybe prove me wrong. Google it. But yeah, it was. I remember there was a couple scenes where the body almost looked like it was moving, and I think it was just the person who was on the ground.
Yeah, the actor
wasn't staying still enough.
Because you got to remember, right? Like Jigsaw was only in the movie for like 30 seconds, so they probably didn't cast anyone that was that good. And then he had to now be in this entire franchise going forward as being like the main antagonist. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's just an example of the actor not doing, a brilliant job just laying on the floor dead. I think it's like explained at one point, I don't know, in this movie or a later one, that he had like sedated himself, so it made it look like he was dead,
yeah.
Or something along those lines.
I think it's number 3. They talk about that, and yeah, it's hilarious. The later ones, the justification for anything to happen, really, they really do try their best. It's just a hard story because there's lots of holes in the story.
Yeah.
But we accept that. When you look at it, just the first one, you accept it because
again, this movie was made for $1 million. All right. That is, I know that sounds like a lot of money, but for movies in general, that is nothing. That is so minimal. And the fact that this spawned a whole franchise and gave James Wan a career off of a $1 million movie. Whatever you think of Saw, it doesn't matter. It's going down in the Hall of Fame of being one of the greatest horror movies of all time, just by the fact that it was so successful,
I agree. All right, well, I've looked into the script. I got the script up. And so, yeah, it's just when Lawrence is talking to Adam and just trying to, get him to be like, oh, do you know this dead body on the floor? And he's like, first dead body I've ever seen. Looks different in real life. They don't move. And then...
Oh, so you're saying he noticed that they're moving? That he was moving?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just a good hint, then, that he's not actually dead.
Yeah, so I remember, hearing that.
Good pickup.
Like, okay, so then why is he so shocked at the end that,
Yeah, but it didn't give it away. I wouldn't say that gave it away.
Yeah, no, I think that's foreshadowing. I think that's what the point of that was.
More foreshadowing, but yeah.
And also, of course, we haven't talked about it, but the little Jigsaw guy on the tricycle, classic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Again, an example of, good design, just brilliant. And the fact that that's now,
true.
It's iconic now.
Yeah, oh, yeah. First of all, how did he have strings, obviously, attached to the tricycle?
Yeah, I think it was just a puppet.
And why did he, this is a cancer patient who's a psycho. Why did he...
And that's the thing, right? The fact that there's a scene where the detectives go and he's got, sets, miniature sets that he's made of figuring out everything. Yeah. It's a bit okay.
How you go?
We have to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's got all this really old cancer patient has all this time to put together these little little miniature sets to figure out what the fuck's gonna happen. But anyway, my closing thoughts are this is the most fun I've had without lubricant. That's my closing thought.
Yes, because he say that? Is that a quote?
It is a quote. It's a quote from the movie. Yeah. I think I'm going to use that in my everyday life from now on. It's just one of those lines that, it's a brilliant line, but no one would ever think to say that.
Yeah, you're in a...
I've said that. I say that on a daily basis.
Yeah, but have you been kidnapped and put in a bathroom?
You're also the kind of guy to cut his own leg off, right? So
yeah. You probably do that on a daily basis.
I thought we weren't going to talk about that, Lockie, but okay. Next talking point.
Right, Ferg. Okay. Show us your leg.
Yeah, no, it's definitely missing, guys. And he didn't bleed out. He just painted himself white.
Oh wait, just by the way, there's no way that doctor made it to anyone that was going to help them.
Yeah, true.
Well, he's a doctor. He could figure it out.
No. He crawls so slow out of that room, and 30 seconds later, Jigsaw wakes up and leaves the room. Yeah. He's just outside the door. He did not get far. There's no way that doctor made it.
He's got to climb up steps and shit. Nah, there's no way.
He's gone. He's gone. There's no way. But just so you know, he comes back.
Oh,
So he did make
spoiler!
it. Sorry. If you haven't seen one of the 8 films by now, you would know this. But
Okay, well, I've got 10 fun Saw facts. Okay?
Yes.
So the first one. This movie was filmed in 18 days.
What?
Just over 2 weeks. Yeah. And that is so I assume, right, low budget movie, right? It would essentially be like we're making a student movie except we're making a proper movie. Like you're just going straight for 18 days, doing as quickly as you can.
Yeah,
You've got no
true.
money, it's running out.
Because he's renting all the gear, right? So he's like, well, shit, I only want to rent it for like 18, 19 days.
it started as a student film. Started as a 20-minute student film in Melbourne. None of the Australian studios wanted it until Twisted Pictures in the LA picked it up. And then that entire bathroom scene, that scene itself was filmed in 1 day.
Wow. Brilliant. I'm sure that's probably a fact coming up, so thanks for spoiling yet another thing, Ferg.
I apologize.
Anyway, number 2, the creation of the franchise was influenced by the Blair Witch Project, which I think the Blair Witch Project, look, again, it's another movie that's going to go down in the Hall of Fame, but it's pretty fucking awful, right? It's literally just people in tents, and the directors are like, hey, why don't you just rustle their tent while they're, while they're sleeping so they get scared, and then we'll film it. And then, like, that's it, right?
Again, not about the film, about the time it came out and the marketing behind it, but it is looking at it now, it is pretty awful.
We could make it. We could honestly
do that.
And that is the whole idea that I feel like that movie spurred, but it was the first, handheld film. And yeah, again, like seeing it in cinemas for the first time, you would have shat yourself. Cause like,
you mean found footage film?
Yeah,
I think is the
found
word.
footage film. Yeah. Like of just being right there in the action.
Again, I don't know how much I trust this site. I mean, I'm getting it off hyperbole.com. But
so good.
What I would say was the only way it influenced it was the fact that you can make a horror movie on, like, yes, horror movies are low budget, but this is insanely low. So I think in terms of its inspiration, it's purely just the fact that they managed to pull off the Blair Witch Project for no money. So then you could probably pull off a Saw movie for no money.
Yeah.
But number 3, the film was originally going to be filmed through the perspective of a security camera in an elevator. And I think we can all agree, thank God that did not happen. That'd be so fucking boring.
What?
Agreed.
How would they do the traps in an elevator?
Maybe it was like that movie,
Oh, yeah.
the Mac where it was all filmed through a Mac searching. Maybe it would be like the precursor
or Unfriended,
to that.
which was, Skype or whatever.
Oh, God. Unfriended would have been a way better example, yeah.
Unfriended can go unfuck itself by fucking itself.
Nice, Lucas.
It's a terrible
You're
movie.
just on point today.
Yeah, sorry. I'm actually not. That's a lie. But I thought you were about to mention the scary elevator movie. I think that has the devil in it.
Devil. I think it's just called
It's called Devil. You're correct. Yeah, exactly. I've got in the notes here. It says this version of Saw most definitely would have ended up a lot more like 2010's Devil.
Wow.
Luke, you're on it.
You actually are on it today. Okay, number 4. The series' signature blood and guts aren't akin to... I don't know why they've written it this way. Essentially, exactly what Ferg's already talked about. James Wan has no intention of the blood and guts being the main focal point of the movie, which he's got a bit of a quote that I'll read out. I felt people ended up concentrating on certain things that were not necessarily for us, what the film was about, like the blood and guts of the trap. I keep reminding people that the reason why I think the first film worked so well was because it was fresh, it was unique, and it had a really cool twist ending that made people say, my God, did you see that?
I did see that, actually,
we all agree.
yeah. No, it was good.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is an example that James Wan knows what he's fucking doing, right?
He does. And that's why, again, I think Malignant is just him, like... testing the waters. It's good. Someone's given him $40 million. Yeah, he's trying something new. Or maybe like he's always had this concept in his head that he's like, maybe I have another head on the back of my head. And,
he was watching He was watching the first Harry Potter, and he was like,
"Yeah,
I've got it."
That's true. Yeah. And yeah, like Power to
Okay.
him. He can do whatever.
Number 5. 2 other concepts almost won out over 2 guys in the room and a dead body on the floor. One was an idea for a movie about astral projection. The second was an idea about a guy who goes to sleep at night and wakes up in the morning with scratches on himself. He notices that something weird is happening to him at night, so he sets up video cameras while he sleeps, and this was many years ago, long before Paranormal Activity came out.
I was just about to say, that sounds exactly like Paranormal Activity.
So I think those other 2 concepts, well, of course,
Does that sound like a lawsuit?
Yeah,
coming
James
on?
Wan suing Paranormal Activity. I think we got the scoop on this, guys.
Before you.
Oh my god.
I mean, that concept could obviously be done on a low budget, as we saw with Paranormal Activity. But the astral projection one, that's definitely not a low budget type movie.
That is.
So
That's his next film.
very true.
That would be
I've
cool.
got to click on to the second 5. Here we go. Okay, number 6. Oh, this is contradicting what you said, Lucas.
Shit. Oh no.
This is saying Saw was filmed for only $700,000.
Well, I mean, no, that's good. We want it to be less.
Yes, but that's fair. That's so small.
Are we talking AUD, USD? Because
Oh.
I've heard it was 1.2. When Lucas said 1.3, I was like, I'll roll with it. So what are we talking here? AUD? USD?
Money's money. Maybe.
No idea.
Maybe because of inflation.
Sure, let's blame that. Either way,
Yes, yeah, we'll call it that.
it was filmed for fuck all money.
It was.
Yep.
Okay, Jigsaw, number 7. Jigsaw was inspired by migraines, says Lee Winnell.
Was that because it gave the fucking audience a migraine?
Well, probably. No, so Lee Winnell has serious migraines. And he says after he had an MRI done, he said, what if you were given the news that you had a tumor and you were going to die soon? How would you react to that? Instead of a doctor telling you, you have a year... Wait.
I would kill everyone.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Anyway, let's say instead of having a doctor telling you you have a year to live, right? What if they say you have 10 minutes to live? How are you going to spend those 10 minutes? Are you going to get out of it? So I
Half
think...
a Rick and Morty episode.
Okay, so you're telling me you wouldn't put 2 guys in a bathroom and have one of them cut their leg off?
Well, that was like, they didn't do that in 10 minutes. They did it in like 4 hours, didn't they?
Hey,
They had 4 hours to do it.
Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger, all right? Lee Winnell, we're officially confirmed that the whole entire Saw movie takes place in 10 minutes. Lucas,
What?
I'm joking. Lucas, I'm joking. All right?
My God.
All right, it didn't take
Got me.
place in 10 minutes.
That went right over your head, Luke. All right, next fact.
Saw was only meant to be a demo reel. Reflecting back on the revelation that a sequel was a possibility, Wan said, we literally let the bad guy open up the door and then close it. So, I'll decipher that for you, Lucas. He's saying that there was no intention of ever being a sequel, that they closed the door on it.
Yeah, because he does at the end.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about this movie, is it has a fucking depressing ending.
So, not only was this movie never really supposed to be a movie, it was never supposed to spawn this giant franchise. It was never supposed to become this torture porn franchise.
Terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Number 9. There were no rehearsals, unless you count the final cut of the film.
Wait,
That's obvious. That
Yeah.
one I could.
I can believe that. Watching that movie, there were no rehearsals.
okay,
So-
now you're sawing off your leg. Okay,
Okay. Okay, you've just sawn off your leg, you're now calling out.
I think a better version of the acting in that film is the first intro to Scary Movie 4.
yes!
With Dr. Phil and Shaq.
And he cuts off his wrong leg.
Yeah.
For some reason, Scary Movie 4 has been taken off all stores in Australia. I'm assuming because of one of the probably 50 copyright lawsuits they had to go through to make this film. But you can't watch it anywhere unless you stream it online illegally. which we don't do.
No, we didn't. We definitely didn't. We definitely didn't pirate Malignant.
No, we traveled to the US in a pandemic, watched it, and flew back on the same day.
Yeah.
So I think if you're looking for a place that probably rehearsed that scene more than people that did in Saw, go to Scary Movie 4 and watch the intro.
There we go.
And Dr. Phil's probably a better actor as well. And he has more justification to be in that room.
He's more of a doctor than the Doctor of Saw.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And we're on to number 10. In the original concept for Saw, there was no Jigsaw. The most surprising of all facts about this movie is this one. There was no puppet on a bike mascot for the horror series, and it wasn't the idea of any of the creators.
Fair enough. I mean,
it doesn't say whose idea it was, but it wasn't any of their ideas apparently.
That movie really could have existed without it, and it would still. It was reaction.
Apparently, James Wan is in love with creepy dolls. From what I've heard in an interview,
that explains
Lee always writes it, and then James Wan comes back to him and says, "Great script, great screenplay. Chuck a creepy doll in there, and I'll make it for you."
Okay, those are 10 facts about Saw. We're now going to play a bit of a game. We're going to do a tournament, and I've called it the James Wan Off. We're doing a bracket. So the way this is going to work, if you're a video watcher, then you'll see the bracket. But if you're just an audio listener, I'll try my best to explain the who's versing off who, and just try to follow along. So I've picked James Wan's most prolific movies, and I've got them in this list, and we're going to battle them out and see which one comes out on top. So, in the first bracket, we have Insidious 2 and Furious 7. Now, here's the thing, right? I do like the Insidious movies, but I've got to be honest, they're a bit fuzzy to me. I don't entirely remember them because I haven't seen them that recently. And I'm definitely more of a fan of the Conjuring movies than the Insidious movies. But Fearghas, you seem to be the biggest James Wan fan of them all. Is Insidious 2 one of the better James Wan movies?
No, it's not. It's not bad, but it is Insidious 1 Part 2. That's what it feels like. The script in Insidious is quite good, better than some of his other films. But I think when you're comparing it to Furious 7, considering the events that surrounded Furious 7, if you're saying which one's more memorable, probably Furious 7.
Yes, I mean...
But I would say I prefer Insidious 2, but I understand... I think most people would say Furious 7 was more impactful.
Furious 7 is definitely one of the better Fast and Furious movies. The fact that James Wan was able to pull off resurrecting a dead actor... I mean, the thing with Furious 7 is everyone always looks at that last scene where Paul Walker drives off, and they're like, oh, the CGI is so bad. Oh my God, you can tell it's not him. And it's like, bro, you didn't realize for the past 2.5 hours that it wasn't Paul Walker. So shut the fuck up. Of course you know at the end of the movie it's not Paul Walker because you know that scene he's dead, right? But for the rest of the movie, you had no idea. So shut up. They did an amazing job bringing him back to life.
And the song as well. Just
brilliant. Charlie Puth. Makes me cry every time I hear it. But Furious 7 is one of the better Fast and Furious movies.
So this is more... Is family stronger than the supernatural arts?
Well, I reckon we should take a vote. I'm going to say... Okay, and also, just don't let anyone else's vote impact your own vote, okay? Don't be swayed either way, right? Vote what is in your heart, okay? Should we do that? Okay, how about this? Oh, no. Actually, there's no way. I was going to say put one hand up, but I think I'm going to be backwards.
No, let's just go one by one.
Okay.
Let's just go one by one.
What do you reckon? Insidious 2?
I'm going to say I enjoyed Insidious 2.
Okay. Lucas?
Family.
I'm going to say Furious 7 too.
Yeah!
We're going to the next round, guys.
I'm not even mad. I'm not even mad.
You're just disappointed, are you, bro?
Oh,
It's a win-win though because it's all James Wan. So at the end, James Wan still wins.
okay, Insidious gets 1 point. Furious 7 gets 2.
Yeah, baby.
Furious 7 wins.
That was a good match. I enjoyed that.
Okay. Next one. We talked about both in the podcast today. I just want to mention this was randomly generated, so it just happened out to go this way. But we're doing Malignant versus Saw. Now,
this is not going to be a conversation.
Yeah, I don't think we need to discuss it. We've done an hour and a half podcast on it. Malignant is one of James Wan's worst movies. Saw gave us his entire career. Saw wins. I think that's 3 for Saw.
I would saw my leg off.
What, to watch the movie Saw?
No. I would just do it. Out of spite.
Yeah, good for you, Luke. It's good for
fun. Keep going.
Here's one. Next one. Aquaman versus Insidious. Now, here's the thing. I know it's going to win, but I want to defend Aquaman for a second. All right? I know a lot of people don't like Aquaman. It made a fuck ton of money, though. But what I will say around Aquaman, I think it has a terrible script, and James Wan nails the action sequences. The scale of the movie is insane. The ocean, underwater fight scenes at the end of the movie, that you have this giant, Lord of the Rings battle underwater, fucking brilliant, right? James Wan nails it. I mean, we saw in Malignant that, how good his action sequences are, and I think some of those great action sequences exist in Aquaman, and the thing with Aquaman is it's the type of script where essentially, if you have a normal action movie, you have scenes that build towards an action sequence, right? In Aquaman and shittier action movies, you have scenes and then they just abruptly end because now there's an action sequence. It's like we're talking about the story and then big explosion, story's over, we're now doing an action sequence. And I think Venom, the first Venom, falls into the same category. But where the first Venom is fucking boring, Aquaman is thoroughly entertaining during those action sequences.
Because I feel like most of the action sequences in Aquaman are just talking, and then the Aquaworld police just fucking burst in. 3 times it happens, and you're like, oh, it's these fucking guys.
And that's a big problem with this movie. But Venom is the same shit. He's just Tom Hardy talking about being Venom, and then suddenly people are shooting at him. All right?
Yeah,
true. And I think this movie's the scale of the action sequences in this movie are great. But anyway, Ferg, why is Insidious better?
Let me think. Well, Insidious was the precursor to The Conjuring. I think it really cemented that ghosts and demons theme that was taken over by everyone, similar to the Saw, torture porn genre. That was the new setting for horror, not just James Wan, but all horror for that 2000s to 2015. It took it. I think 2005 to 2015 was the ghostly paranormal stuff, and it set the new precedent, whatever you want to say.
Yes.
He picked good actors. The script was
Again,
good.
Patrick Wilson, my man. He's also in Aquaman. Don't forget he's in Aquaman.
I did forget he was in Aquaman. You know why? Because I've never seen Aquaman.
Okay, then Ferg doesn't get to vote on this one.
Look, I'm going to retract my vote because I'm so confident in Insidious. We've all seen it. Darth Maul features in it.
He does.
That's true.
I think we all know who that is.
True.
I think that automatically wins.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
Look.
At the time it came out, it was terrifying. It was new and terrifying.
Look, I just want to say to the audience, all right, okay, you know what? Actually, fuck it. Let's vote. I'm doing Aquaman. Let's go, boys.
Who are you saying let's go to?
The Aquaman fans, the Aquanites as we're called.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's just hilarious.
Look,
I am Ocean Master.
I know you don't want me to vote, but I can guarantee you, even if I had seen Aquaman, I still wouldn't have voted.
Let's just get it over and done with.
It's
You two are
hideous,
voting for Insidious.
obviously. Yes.
Okay, now this is an interesting one. We're pitting two sequels against each other, Conjuring 1 and Conjuring 2. Now, I know it's very easy to look at the first one as being better, but, right, first one, amazing Southern America, townhouse aesthetic, like giant, like plot of land, right? Brilliant. But Conjuring 2, tiny little flat in the UK.
Britain.
Exactly. I reckon, like, I don't know. Oh, fuck. And also, right, Conjuring 1, The Witch, and Annabelle, but Annabelle's barely in it.
We
right?
don't see the witch, do we? It's just like...
No, you do. You do see the witch.
you do.
You see the witch.
Like multiple times.
And again, James Wan monster design, great. The witch is fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
but
true.
the nun,
She's terrifying.
The nun, I think is a better character design.
I agree. I still think The Conjuring 1 wins based on the originality of when it came out. I think The Conjuring 2 follows the same kind of beats and is kind of as predictable after seeing The Conjuring 1. I don't think it's bad. I think it's incredible. I saw both of them in the cinema. Both well worth the money. I think The Conjuring 2 stands on its own, but The Conjuring 1 just as itself when it first came out, it's just going to get the vote.
I agree. And I think the brilliant thing about the Conjuring movies, hey, look, true horror movie fans kind of look at the Conjuring movies and go, too much jump scares. I disagree. I strongly disagree. I think because a good horror movie is all about the atmosphere. Those movies have a fucking amazing atmosphere. Oh, yeah. So don't come at me and saying that they're only jump scares. They're not. Okay.
There's nothing wrong with.
There's nothing wrong with
They
jump
just have to be. They just can't be cheap.
Yeah.
They can't be someone your friend knocking on a door after 30 seconds of complete silence. It has to be paid to like a well worth build up.
Exactly.
And James Wan does that well. He never messes with you. He never tricks you.
He's fantastic at building up tension towards a jump scare. One of the Conjuring 2 will always stick with me, where there's the scene with the little kids by the TV, and he sees the reflection of the old man in the couch. He turns, old man's not there, and then it's this tension that builds up, and you're like, oh, thank God, we're not going to get a scare. Turn back, he's right fucking there. Brilliant horror.
Dude. Good, but they put that in the trailer. I
didn't see the trailer.
Yeah, again.
Lucas has had this narrative throughout the podcast. Don't watch trailers. Couldn't agree more. But I still watch a lot of them.
All right, let's vote. Let's vote on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Conjuring 1's my vote.
They're so good. You're saying 2. You're saying 1.
No, I'm just piecing out, bro.
Okay. Look, first Conjuring, it was incredible.
Fair enough. Because all the scenes, especially with the witch, and just introducing.
Oh, when she floats over the mum and then vomits. Oh my God. Oh, when she's on top of the wardrobe when you see her. Oh my God. I was in the cinema. I clapped myself.
And the clapping game as well. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Watch it again.
I want to watch that right now. Anyway, I think Conjuring 1 and 2 are definitely like some of the best modern horror movies out there. Okay. We've got the semi-finals. Okay. Furious 7 or Saw. Very different movies.
Saw.
Furious 7, fucking massive budget. Saw. A million.
That you can't compare them, but just based on like how they've changed the landscape. Saw.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Saw is the first in a franchise that was never intending to be a franchise. It launched a director's career. Furious 7 is just another Fast and Furious movie. Mm-hmm. I think it's 3 for Saw. Okay.
Next. Okay, this is going to be a bit tougher.
This is the real one right here.
This is the all right.
It separates the boy from the man.
All right.
It does. Insidious versus The Conjuring.
I reckon my vote's going with The Conjuring again because
look.
I agree.
Okay, let's just quickly mention Insidious is ingenious for coming up with the fact that it's like some do you know what the world's called? That other dimension, I keep thinking it's like
Dark Place? The Dark Place? Is it the Dark Place?
I can't remember. I don't like. I'm thinking it's no, like the Underground is Stranger Things. Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. The fact that the fact that he's taken supernatural horror into like this weird dimensional aspect. Brilliant. Never been done before.
Absolutely
so unique.
Brilliant. But
The Conjuring.
Right.
The Conjuring is fucking fantastic.
it's amazing.
Money, money, money. Conjuring.
Conjuring spawned a whole cinematic universe. And the fact it's based on, the lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who probably, stole a lot of money from a lot of people by just preying on their fears. They're probably terrible people. But anyway,
I don't know.
They make
I
for
don't
good
know.
characters.
We did watch Conjuring 3, didn't we? And,
What? You're telling me
Actually,
they're real...
It's Conjuring 3.
They're real... the guy... That fucking... Oh... Okay, let's just quickly talk about The Conjuring 3. Right, okay. The devil made me do it. I'm in a legal battle. I didn't murder this person. The devil made me do it. I don't give a shit. You're going to jail. Like, that's what happened, essentially. Right? Ed and Lorraine Warren went to this legal case and said, the devil made him do it. And the judge said, fuck you, he's going to jail.
yeah. But, like, if you watch the movie, the devil did make him do it.
So you're wrong. It's actually a documentary.
It's a documentary. I'm sorry, I forgot the Conjuring franchise is a documentary.
You believe in God, then you can believe in the devil.
But yeah.
Okay, let's say... Okay.
Yeah, you haven't told us your vote.
So you two have done Conjuring, haven't you?
Yeah, you haven't told us your
Well, it
vote.
doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah, but,
But just tell me anyway. I just want to know.
I think,
curious.
honestly, The Conjuring. The Conjuring is
peer pressure.
one of my favorite. It's honestly one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, so now the movie that gave James Wan a career versus one of his best movies of all time.
Yeah. This is tough. This is okay. Well, let's compare him to other directors, and their movie that made them, and then their best movie, and what really,
No, but I think we don't have to do that. I think what you just said is exactly the sum up of this fight.
Yeah.
I think Saw does not stand up as much as The Conjuring does, just based on the fact that it was made in 2003, 2004.
yeah.
But I think the amount of points it's going to get from kickstarting the career and changing the game, like the entire game. The Conjuring it made a cinematic universe, but Insidious was before The Conjuring.
Yeah.
It didn't start the demon and the supernatural phase. Saw brought back horror in a big way, and I think the points that it gets from that probably outweigh the points The Conjuring has just being an amazing film. Right now, would I rather watch? Probably The Conjuring.
Yeah. I agree with you, Ferg. I think that, you need to think about these two movies.
Yeah.
If we didn't have The Conjuring, we'd still have James Wan.
Yes.
If we didn't have Saw,
we
we
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
have The Conjuring or James Wan. He would have just been a
But
freaky student filmmaker in Melbourne.
If you had to watch one now, we just watched the Saw.
forgetting about
You had
that.
to watch one now.
Conjuring.
Yeah.
I'd watch Conjuring.
Yeah.
And the thing with The Conjuring was as well, it's definitively a better movie.
Yes.
It's got it's firstly bigger budget allows for more. It's got a better set design. It's got better cinematography. It's got Patrick Wilson, who I'm not going to stop sucking his dick. He is fucking amazing.
But that's
Right.
all within the budget, though. I feel
exactly,
like
and
Saw's
Saw-
limitations were the budget itself.
And it overcame those limitations.
Because of how good James Wan,
Although the only other point you could say was the sequels of Saw are complete garbage.
Exactly. Whereas
Um,
there are good parts of the Conjuring cinematic universe, right? Conjuring 1 and 2, amazing. Conjuring 3, okay. And then the first Annabelle, dog shit. Second Annabelle,
The second one's
good.
good.
Third one, okay. None, fucking awful. So it's very all over the place, but there's a lot of good shit. Whereas Saw, everything, absolutely everything after the first movie is bad.
No. 1, 2, and 1, amazing. 2 and 3. 2 is definitely watchable. I'm gonna make Lucas watch it soon, just to show him what it's become.
Yeah.
3 is getting to the point where I probably would stop, and then after that, you're pretty much just watching a TV show that's been drawn out over an hour and a half. They even double down on the fact that when you start watching the later ones, at the first 10 minutes of the film is previously on Saw. Like, it is a TV show. It's not great, but the first 2, I would say the first 2 and 3 are also worth watching.
Okay, boys, it's been lovely talking about these movies.
But now
it's now time to vote.
I would say so.
All in favor of Saw, say aye.
Aye.
All in favor of Conjuring, say aye.
Fuck yourself.
Aye. Okay.
I suck.
2v1. Saw wins it.
Yay.
So we've officially determined the winner of the James Wan off is Saw. His claim to fame.
Wow.
I think we've
Big ups.
I think we've learnt a lot on this podcast.
James, we know you're watching this. You're probably writing all this down, but our thoughts on Saw is that it's a great film.
We love you, James.
And so we're sorry for shitting on Malignant, all right? It's just, you can do better. You can do better.
Look, you're not wrong. You're just not right either.
We're not mad.
We're not mad. We're just a bit disappointed.
That's all right?
Still had fun. Still, we had a couple too many beers. That's probably the perfect amount of beers you want for that movie. Still had fun.
But yeah, I mean, Saw takes the cake.
And I think that will do it for us this week.
Yeah.
Thank you all for listening / watching this week. It's been a long one, but it's been a good one. I hope you agree with us, because 1 week one of our audience members did not agree with us, and that was on the Suicide Squad. But it doesn't matter.
Oh well. It's our opinion.
It's our opinion at the end of the day.
We're entitled to the wrong opinion.
Exactly. Please, if you like this episode, please like us, follow us, do all of that good stuff. We're a podcast now in most places, and also at APod now on Instagram and TikTok. We release funny clips from the pod. So please catch those. And next week. Yeah, next week's going to be a blast. So I think we don't have anything to talk about.
That's
apart
great.
from
I'm excited then.
there's nothing released. So okay. Wait. I won't start shitting on
Nothing.
No. So 2 weeks from now, Free Guy comes out and on digital, and we will review that. So I'm very excited. But next week, going to be a little difficult. Something may come out that I haven't thought about, and we may review that. But until then, the best option we've got is a movie called Vacation Friends, starring John Cena, and it's like an R-rated comedy. It's on Disney+. It came out a few weeks ago. No one's seen it. No one's heard of it. I don't know if it's any good, but that's the best we've got.
We'll watch it for you so that you don't have to watch it.
Yes.
You'll watch a 1 hour podcast so you don't have to watch a 1.5 hour movie.
Because that makes a lot of sense. That's big think time. That's big thing.
Big thonk.
But yes, so hopefully we have something better to talk about. But if we don't, we're going to talk about Vacation Friends. So go watch it on Disney+. I'm sure it's fucking amazing. But that has been us this week. And can't wait to see you all next week. So
Bye. Bye.